You likely came into this video wondering what kind of game this is. Don't worry, so did I, because this is Brown Dust 2, and there is no way you're going to guess what kind of game this is from the name alone. No, it's not a farming game because it would probably be called Brown Dirt instead. Think a different type of farming because it is none other than a top-down JRPG that follows the same strange naming sense of recent JRPGs with your triangle strategies and chronicles and
I'm so hungry, I could eat an
Octopath Traveler. Except it's a free-to-play gacha game with a dev team that's clearly way too overqualified for the job of creating a gacha game. You could have shown me footage of this game, told me it was a single-player JRPG for maybe $40 and I would not have batted an eyelid. The environments are absolutely stunning for a free-to-play game, and you can tell it was just made with love. From the extremely cultured live 2D sprites that would get me demonetized if I showed way too much. But we must stay focused because we still have to run through the story. The story of Brown Dust 2 begins with you having N64 and chill with a cute girl in her house, and you heard me right. N64. Yes, I know it's a Super Famicom, but N64 and chill has a way better ring to it. Because this girl will explain that you're playing a game in a game that's been divided into multiple cartridges, all of which drop gacha currency for some reason when you can't slot it in properly. If I had $1 for every N64 cartridge I couldn't fit into the slot, I would have $0. Because I don't have an N64. The cartridges are unlocked as you complete each main story segment and are divided into categories: the story pack, the character pack, the special pack,
the fitness gram pacer test,
and the tutorial pack, which is where your journey begins. The tutorial puts you into the shoes of your faceless, dense protagonist who clearly doesn't realize that the girl likes him, and you end up on a quest with your party, a wanted felon, and an exploding skeleton on the quest to save the world. Yet again. But just as the story of the tutorial gets really good, you find out that this isn't even the main story, and it's actually a retelling of the beginning of the first game that should be called Brown Dust on paper, but is marketed as Brave 9 on Steam instead. Confusing? Tell me about it. This is Justia, the hooded half-demon girl and your main heroine from the front cover of the game, who visits a village where our main protagonist, Lathel, lives a happy herb-gathering life with his foster father and adopted sister. And of course, he joins Justia in her quest to hunt down the evil warlocks that are causing chaos in his village and across the world with the undead. This village must be purged. They eventually do find a warlock through a convenient plot twist and confront him, only for him to drop Lathel's sister's HP to 0 right before their very eyes. Then you see Justia jump extremely far in this later cutscene, and yet is unable to stop someone at a way shorter distance.
That's quite big.
And I'm sorry, disposable little sister, you just got tossed aside for the sake of the plot. It's a fairly simple fantasy setting, but remember, it's not the story that you're really here for. It's the skill cut-ins for all your waifus, especially for the 5-star units in the game. Yes. And Wiggle, the best character in the game, and you cannot change my mind. Because he's a literal spooky scary skeleton with a bomb strapped to his back, and the only word he says is... and then he f***ing explodes. Ripping pepperonis, we're totally going to have to glue you back together. Oh, he's back. Wiggle is a true Chad. Outside of the obvious running around RPG style, the combat in the game plays like a puzzle game where you use 5 characters that come with basic attacks, a second attack that pushes enemies in certain directions, and your ultimate ability, or abilities depending on the number of costumes you have for the character. And the goal is to position all your enemies in the right spots for all of your skills to hit. All of which is definitely made easier by leveling up your units outside of combat or getting some stronger characters. Characters in this game are obtained either from the recruitment contracts in the bar, from regular gameplay, or from the gacha, where you roll for costumes for characters and for weapons and gear. Rolls have a total of 3% for any 5-star, which is made up of 1.5% chance for the rate up item and 1.5% for everything else. Base pity is 100 rolls for a random 5-star, which gives you draw points per roll that you can then cash in 200 of for the pickup costume or weapon if you are extremely unlucky. But even if your draw points don't carry over and actually turn into dust by the next banner, the dust can actually be saved up for any future costumes in the dust shop. And to top it all off, they even give you 1 free pull per limited banner per day, as well as the mountains of gems for completing achievements, making this one of the more generous gacha games I've actually seen around. But seeing as this game is called Brown Dust 2, why isn't the dust brown? As far as character abilities go, each character comes with skills that can be used in the main map, such as cooking food, speeding up your running, or crafting gear with materials you farm throughout the game, including the highest rarity weapons and armor that you'll definitely need to grind hard for. All of which, oddly enough, uses a limited resource of ability pills, which can always be bought from the item shop if you do run out, but did have me scratching my head wondering how to get more until I looked it up on Reddit. Definitely would be nice to know where resources come from by just clicking on them, but Reddit will just have to be your best friend while playing this game. Fortunately, for a turn-based sort of puzzle game like this that I'm honestly not the best at, you always have the auto battle mode that basically does what you expect it to do. And for those who like big bosses, you can always climb the raid leaderboard.
Skill issue.
Dead teammates don't revive on their own, and you'll either need to go into the game to recover or revive them using one of the skills of your other characters on the side, which isn't an issue in most cases because you'll likely have a healer in your roster anyway from the gacha. But it makes side stories fairly tedious when you have to spend time running back to the inn to recover every single time, especially if you suck at puzzle games like me. Speaking of the character stories though, these range from yet another obligatory school arc where Justia has been transported to an alternate timeline in search for a way home with the help of a very cool son Chotaku, to a post-apocalyptic world ridden with zombies, Persona 6, and totally not Pan's Labyrinth. The best part about these is that they act as their own self-contained stories with their own set of temporary characters for you to use, but there is still a catch. You can't use your gacha rolled units in these character stories at all. Highly recommend ensuring everyone you're stuck with survives each battle, because these temporary units do not gain levels if they get wrecked, can't be cheesed with your resources, and will end up under-leveled and give you an extremely hard time with the final boss. I actually had to look up a guide because I spent 40 minutes on this one boss when I made this exact mistake, until I lucked out with a stray critical hit and won with a strategy that actually worked. So once again, Reddit is your friend. I honestly forget that this game is a gacha game at times, but funniest part is, you can't spend any money on the PC client despite being connected to Google and Apple accounts. So if you are a gacha obsessed player who can't control yourself from rolling a waifu in a game like this, play the PC version. I wouldn't blame you though, the character designs are actually pretty decent, and the gain in power from duplicates is actually pretty insane, to the point I've seen recommendations to use 3 and 4 stars for PvP because you can often get them maxed out. And if you thought Blue Archive's PvP was extremely hands-off with automated battles and predetermined results, the PvP in this game is basically that. Except you can position your characters around the board before you enter the battle and determine the order of skills used. Unfortunately, it still means you're blindly placing units on the board and hoping for the best, whether you're attacking or defending, which sounds pretty damn pointless having PvP without any skill involved. Still though, I guess it beats spending time waiting for online opponents or fighting obvious bots when you can't find players online, so it's unfortunately necessary in a game like this. And of course, you do have your standard material farming, which can be left in the background while you do other stuff in the game, and the Bloody Palace Floor Ascension challenge for the veteran players. But surprisingly enough, all of these have been lovingly incorporated into side adventures that our main cast end up on during their main journey, whether it's being teleported to a magical airship that carries you to your farming location after getting surrounded by goblins, a castle that causes people to go batshit insane, or a demonic realm where alternate timeline versions of your main cast end up duking it out in PvP. It's a nice touch that the devs put into the world building and really goes to show the amount of effort that has been put into this game. And with that, now comes the verdict for Brown Dust 2. At the moment, definitely an 8 out of 10. A game with so much polish and love put into its JRPG elements that initially conflicts with its gacha side, which is easily mitigated by the sheer amount of free currency that they give in the early game, and the fact you can recruit units with contracts that you get over time as well. Topped with a unique combat system, heaps of peak culture for the culture enjoyers in the skill cut-ins and live 2D portraits, it's a definite hidden gem of a gacha game. But of course, to answer the question of this video, yes, it's worth playing, but mainly for the main story and character stories, which is where most of the fun I had in this game comes from. And with this being a free-to-play game that is extremely accessible as well, it's a solid player experience with a fully progressible story and battles spaced in a very logical way, and a PvP meta for the PvP players of course. Just be prepared though to face the whales with tons of duplicate 5 stars. And so, as always, stay safe, stay humble, and wiggle wiggle. This is the Wiggle Night, and we will see you wiggle.